Okay, Shalom Aleichem, Chavra. And we're going to start from Beis and Beis. We're going to go back a couple lines just to get a flow of the Gemara. So the Gemara is discussing over here, when do you start saying, Masha V'chom Regashem in Shemon Esrei. We had a couple of shitas, and we're going to analyze them as follows. We start from the second day of Yom Tov. My time what's the reason of the Vidu Mesir that says that we start from the second day of Yom Tov? And we had a few other shitas in the Mishnah. We had from the first day of Yom Tov and from the last day of Yom Tov. What's the second? Vidu Mesir says as follows. It says in the second day by the Karbanis V'niskehem, the Lashon Rabbim, an extra mem. V'nema b'shishi v'niskeha, an extra yud, because it says v'niskeha, without a yud. V'nema b'shvi, and then the seventh day, the Karbanis in Sukkot, it says k'mishpata, which is an extra, again, like an extra mem. So it's the Sefer Tevis, the extra letters is mem, yud, mem, which is the acronym, which mayim, which refers to the fact that we do water. So rei, mayim, mem, yud, mem, hare kan mayim. That is the remez of Nisach HaMayim, and that is also connected to the idea of when we're going to start saying Mashiach Rachman Yashem. Now, you told me that there's 3 different days that we used in order to put together this remez of Mayim. So why did you decide to do the second day? Because this acronym, this remez, started on the second day. So that's the day that we're going to start the Haskaras Gashan. Rabbi Kiva says on the 6th day of Chag we start. Why? It says on the 6th day v'niskaha. And it's a mashma, a double lashon of Nesachim. Now, Niskehem on Yom Sheni is also a double lashon. But the Rashi points out, I think, that it's a double lashon of karbanos also. Niskeha is a double lashon of Nesachim, gabe one carbon. So he's saying, B'shnei Nesuchim hakasim adaber. That's a riba in Nesachim. So the pasuk is talking about 2 different types of Nesachim. Echad Nisach HaMayim, Echad Nisach HaYayin. Nisach HaYayin was done all the time. Nisach HaMayim was special for Sukkot. So it's being marba Nisach HaMayim. And that the ema to value the Chama. How do we know that the Gemara? How do we know that the correct, the proper English word for Nesachim is libations, which I don't know why the word bothers me. But where do we know? Maybe it's 2 Nesachim for wine. So like Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseir the Amar Remisamayim. It says Rabbi Kiva also uses this mashup of ribuyim to learn out that there's a remes to mayim. If you say that you hold the Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseir, then say like him that what they should lay on. You should start on the 2nd day. Why are you saying to start on the 6th day? And how do we know that it's mayim? Because Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseir's extra letters drasha say that if you hold the computer's actually letter drasha, then say just like Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseir on the 2nd day. And the Rabbi Kiva kiksiv nisach yiseira b'shishi hu tachsiv. When it says a riba in Nisachim, it's talking about the 6th day. So we go back. It says Miniskeihem is the first day again, which is also a lashon of a riba lashon of Nisachim. But we said before that it's a lashon of riba karbanis also. So it's multiple Nesachim for multiple karbanis. But the 6th day is when it's marben Nesachim by 1 carbon. And that's what Rabbi Kiva is going to learn is the riba for mayim by the 6th day. And again, using the acronym of mem yud mem with the extra letters, he's still going to come on that it's a mayim and not yayin. But we're going to start on the 6th day where the riba is for mayim and not other things. Tanya, Reb Nosson, Aimer, B'Kodesh V'Seich Nesach Sheichel Hashem. And this is talking about carbon tamid. This has nothing to do with sukkahs. But he's still learning out that we're still learning out from here, and we're going to explain in a second. It's a double lashon. It says B'Kodesh Haseich Nesach Sheichel Hashem. Haseich Nesach is a double lashon of pouring. In fact, maybe they're both by Chama. The same question we asked before. by Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara imkain lichtav kra oy hesech hesech oy nesech nesech. Say a double lashon of the same lashon. The fact that the Mishnah, that the pasuk switches the lashon is going to be it's medayik another type of pouring, which is wine. I don't remember. Rashi says exactly why. I don't remember who. It's obviously not talking about we're doing Nisach HaMayim by on a regular carbon. But what does he learn out? It can't be regular carbon. It has to be on Sukkah. So why does it say? I forgot how he gets to how it's on Sukkah, how it's during Sukkahs. But the reason why it's by the carbon tamid is that you shouldn't do it any other carbon or all the carbonas. Maybe you do it by all the carbonas. So that's why the limit is from carbon tamid shel shachris, and that you only do it the Nisach HaMayim in the morning. It's important. It's not important in Rashi. It's important in the Mesivta. How do you learn out from here to Sukkah? Okay. Let's think about it. Time you. No, that's we just learned. Ella ahad the Tanan. Nisach HaMayim kol zayin mani. So we have a Mishnah that says, probably in Sukkah, in Sukkah, that Nisach HaMayim is all 7 days. So which shita is this? We had a bunch of shitas when you start being Masker Geshem, and it's all tied to when you do the Nisach HaMayim. So what is the shita that's going to say that you do Nisach HaMayim for all 7 days? Rabbi Yeshua says on one day. Why? Because he says you start the last day of Yom Tov. He says you start saying Mashiach Geshem. Our Mishnah, Rabbi Yeshua, and our Mishnah says that you start saying the on the last day of Yom Tov you start saying Mashiach Geshem. Rabbi Kiva says the second day, and Rabbi Kiva says the second day and the sixth day. Rabbi Kiva says you start saying on the sixth day, so L'chai would be 6 and 7. It's a big number today. Rabbi Kiva Treyam, it would be he starts on the sixth day. He says Mashiach Geshem on the sixth day. So L'chai you would do 6 and 7. Rabbi Yehuda, but if you Yehuda B'Meseira Shita Yami, it would be 6 days. Why? Because he would start on the second day. Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseira says you start on the second day to be Mashiach Geshem. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 days. The Gemara says no, really it's Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseira. The Sira like Rabbi Yehuda the Mesnisen. And he also Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah. It's not Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, not our Mishnah, I'm sorry, another Mishnah in L'chayra also Sukkah. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Belug Haya Menasech Kol Shmoina. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you're Menasech the whole 8 days of Yom Tov. So that's 7 days of Sukkot and 1 day of Shmini Atzeres. Now we have 9 days of Yom Tov, but we're not talking about us, we're talking about Eretz Yisrael. So 8 days of Sukkot is not 8 days of Sukkot, it's 7 days of Sukkot and 1 day of Shmini Atzeres. Mapik Rishon, now because Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseira starts on the second day, right? He says you don't lane on the first day, but you lane on the 8th day. You don't lane, you masker. So he takes out the first day, but he picks up the 8th day. Now, why is it called picking up? Because for him, he only until now we understood that he would only hold on Sukkot. So he only has 7 days. So again, the question was, who is the Tana of the Mishnah that says Nisach HaMayim Kol Zayin? First of all, Lashon Kol Zayin doesn't stem so good according to this, but the Gemara doesn't have that problem. But the Gemara wants to know who's the man Amar that says 7 days you do Nisach HaMayim. So Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseira, who starts on the second day, if he holds like Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah that says you do it all 8 days, so he starts on the second and finish on the 8th, you end up with 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 days. Ma'ishna Rishon Dela, why for the Gemara? Ma'ishna Rishon Dela. What's the according to Rabbi Yehuda B'Meseira? Why do I not lane? Why do I not masker? I keep on saying lane. Why am I not masker Geshem on the first day? The remez of Yayin of Mayim started on the second day. On the Kriya on the Kabbanis of the second day. Shmini Nami Kivimizi Mayim B'Shvi Hudim Remizi. So you shouldn't lane on the 8th day because the remez of Mayim also stopped on the 8th day, on the 7th day, so the 8th day would not be included. So how do you get to 7? The answer, right? We said that Rabbi Yehuda Mezer got to 7 because he included Shmini Atzeres, but Shmini Atzeres doesn't have this haskaras of Mayim. So why would he include it? The same way he doesn't include the first day. There's no svara to say. Well, I had a svara, but the point is, the Gemara says there's no svara to say why that they should start from the second and continue through the 8th. If the reason why we start from the second is because there's no remez on the first day to Mayim, Shmini Atzeres is also not included in that remez. Elo, the Gemara says, so I had a svara, I didn't see it anywhere, so just parentheses. Once you start, you don't stop. Okay, but the Gemara doesn't say that. Elo, Rabbi Yeshua, the Gemara is going back to Rabbi Yeshua. Our question was Rabbi Yeshua says that he only starts saying, you only being Masker Geshem on the 8th, on Shmini Atzeres, because that's when you Masker Geshem, and that's when Nisach HaMayim is, the Chayra. I know we're tying those two without any, the Gemara's like doing it like passive aggressively. The Gemara doesn't decide why and how and where. We're just assuming that these two things are connected. And Rabbi Yeshua very clearly says you only masker Geshem on the last day, on Shmini Atzeres. So according to Rabbi Yeshua, the Gemara is assuming that according to Rabbi Yeshua, we only do Nisach HaMayim on the last day. So how do you get to 7 days? The whole this idea of Nisach HaMayim on all 7 days of Yom Tov is halacha Gemara Sinai, and that's what Hashita is. And it's not connected to and mutually exclusive from when we are Masker Geshem. Ish because Beis Charson, Rabbi said, in the name of Yechanan, who's from this valley of Chorton, Es and Atiyas, there's 3 ideas that are halacha Messina. Obviously, there are a lot more, but he's quoting 3. I guess you have to know the context of what he's talking about. Asar and Atiyas, which Rashi explains it to us, is the halacha that for most fields, you have to stop planting or plowing 30 days before Shvi'ah. So Shemitah starts Rosh Hashanah, so you can't go to the Zman. There's a Taisa Shabbos. Taisa Shabbos, we have Taisa Shabbos every week. Machlekes Raisa Darabanan. But there's Indian Taisa Shabbos every single week, not to take on Shabbos the last second, not to run out the first minute, but to keep it extra, make your soul Shabbos-dik. And there's also Indian of Taisis Shabbos when it comes to Shemitah. So Shemitah starts Rosh Hashanah. You don't plow until you have to go to Shul Rosh Hashanah. You have to stop 30 days before. Arava, this Indian with Arava is what they used to do on Hashanah Rabbah to run around the Mizbeach in the Azara, I think, right? That's what they used to do with the Aravas. That is Malach Meshim Mesina. V'nisach HaMayim, and the Nisach HaMayim, I guess, Kol Sheva, Malach Meshim Mesina. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Yeshua Ha'over L'fnei HaTeva B'yom Tov Ha'achron Shel Chag Ha'achron Masker Harishon Ein Masker. So Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yeshua that if you the Baal Tefillah on the last day of Yom Tov is Masker, the Rishon Ein Masker. So by Musaf Shmini Atzeres, that's when you start saying Mashav Chumar Yeshim Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach. And you stop by Musaf of Pesach Yamishin. Hey Rabbi Shua, which Rabbi Shua is this that Rabbi Yehuda is quoting? Elaine Rabbi Shua the Masnisa. If you're going to say it's Rabbi Shua in our Mishnah over here in Bezim and Aleph, it says that the last day of Yom Tov you masker. Rabbi Shua, the last day of Yom Tov, which would be mashma, that even Shachas he would say, even Shachas, which is not a Galisa. Yehuda said in the name of Yeshua that it's from Musaf on the last day of Yom Tov. Ella, Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa. Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa, Ha'amar Mishas HaNachasai. We had this Brisa on Bezim and Aleph, on Bezim and Bez. Machlekes Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua. That they both hold from Lulav. They both hold from the Abaminim. Rabbi Elazar says from when you pick it up, and Rabbi Yeshua says from when you put it down. Can't find the exact words over here, but that's what I remember the Brisa is saying. Rabbi Yeshua argues and he says it has to do with the Abaminim. It has to do from when you stop using them. Now you stop using them on Hashanah Rabbah, which means that's the Lord's kasha. He said from when you put it down. When you put it down on Hashanah Rabbah, which means that Shmini Atzeres by night already, you're going to start saying Mashav Chumar Geshem. So that's we have a problem. We don't know which Rabbi Yeshua it is. V'su, how did Tanya Yehuda Mishum ben Meseda Rabbi Huda says the name of Ben Beseira, Ayvel Fnei Ateva B'Yom Tov Ha'achron Shel Chag Ha'achron Masker. Again, he says the same halacha, but b'shem Rabbi Shua Ben Beseira, whoever that is. We're going to try to figure it out in a second. Again, Rabbi Huda Ayim Mishum Ben Beseira Ha'ayvel Fnei Ateva B'Yom Tov Ha'achron Shel Chag Ha'achron Masker. The last one is Masker, the same halacha that we just said, but b'shem Ben Beseira. Hi Ben Beseira. Who is this Ben Beseira? Elim Rabbi Huda Ben Beseira. Amim B'Sheni B'Chaguk Masker. Rabbi Huda Ben Beseira says from the second day of Yom Tov. So that's Zichron not it, right? We're talking about the last day of Yom Tov. Rabbi Huda is saying the name Ben Beseira the last day of Yom Tov. Amim Nachman Yitzchak Tehei Rabbi Shua Ben Beseira. It must be Rabbi Shua Ben Beseira, which would answer the previous question also. I just have that now. Rabbi Shua Ben Beseira. Zimnin the Karile B'Shmei. Zimnin the Karile B'Shmei the Abba. Sometimes he's referred to as Rabbi Shua Ben Beseira or Rabbi Shua, and sometimes they call him Ben Beseira. Why? When before he was a Muslimach, they called him by his family name, which I guess I don't know if that's considered a kina or not, because we're talking about that this is the Gemara is referring to him and his contemporaries, the Tamil Chacham, the Amaram, But it's just, I guess it's a way of differentiating who's a Muslim and who's not. So Rabbi Huda is quoting him in one place as Rabbi Shua, which is, I guess, after his smicha, but it's talking about Rabbi Shua ben Beseira, and later when he calls him ben Beseira, not later, but later in our Gemara. Earlier, when he refers to him as ben Beseira, chronologically, it's earlier, he wasn't a Muslim, and that's why these two seemingly conflicting or confusing halachas, we figured out who is the Rabbi Shua that Rabbi Huda is talking about. I just have to answer that question also. Tana. We learned batal betal beruchais lo yichai v'chacham lahaska. The Torah does not. The chacham did not say you have to say mashav v'ruach amoyer tal. The im you don't have to be masker tal and ruchais. So you don't have to say mashav v'ruach amoyer Hashem, and you don't have to be masker tal at all. When we say amoyer tal, that's a bonus, and that's why the Nusachashkan Hastaka doesn't say it. The im bala haska masker. If you want to say it, you can say it. My time. What's the reason? They are never held back. So there's no reason to praise Hashem or to mention, that you bring down the tal, because that's something that He guaranteed, or that's the way He set up the world, or Hakadosh set up the world, is that it's never going to be held back. So how do we know that tal is not ever held back? It says in the pasuk in Melachim. He said, Eliyahu Navi said to Achav, Chai Hashem Eloshen Shua Elikei Yisrael Asher Amadti Lefanav Emiyah Hamdashan Ma'ela Talumatar. There will not be any rain or dew. Ki im lefi dvari. Only when I say. So he said he's cursing them and he's holding back the rain from them, which is we said earlier that Hashem does not give the haftachas over, but this is an example where He did give the haftachas over to Eliyahu Navi. We said afterwards. Leich Hira El Achav, Hakadosh Baruch is telling Eliyahu Navi to go back to Achav and say, Ve'et l'matar el pnei adama. I'm going to give matar al pnei adama. Ve'ilu tal lekarle. No, it's in the curse, in the shua. He says, you're not going to get a drop of rain or tal without me. And then when he opened up the gates at the end, he said, I'm giving you back matar. So why didn't he say giving him back tal? My timer must be mishum delay. Because it wasn't held back. Why did he? Not really why, but how is he able to make a shua? So the Gemara right knows if the tal didn't stop, then he made a shua shav. Halchi kamal is what he meant. Afilu tal bracha. You're not going to get this tal of bracha. Afilu tal bracha namal yasi. This tal of bracha is not going to come to you. In other words, standard tal, whatever that means. I don't understand the different levels of do, but let's say the standard tal is necessary for the world to function. The tal of bracha is that you're not going to get. So that's why it wasn't a shua shav, because they didn't get the tal of bracha. But the tal of bracha. Let's say you should. So tell them. In other words, when I go back, I'm saying I'm giving you matzah, I'm giving you rain, and I'm also giving you the tal of bracha that I held back from you. It's not so discernible. You look outside, you see the dew. You can't tell if there was dew, levracha, not dew levracha. You know there's dew on the floor. You don't know which dew it's from and what degree of dew it is. So if he would have said, "I'm bringing it back," he would have Achbar would have said, "It never left the chatchili." He wouldn't have taken his word seriously. But this he left it out. Whatever they got, they got. But the grain which is an absolute and was able to be held back, like Hakadosh Baruch Hu through Eliyahu Navi, that he was able to take and give back. So now so we established that mutter tal, is never held back. So there's no real need, call it, to say mutter in Shemona Esrei. Tal, Moed Hatal is not necessary. Ruchais minale deloi miatzrei. How do we know that Hashem does not hold back the wind? This is a very interesting limud. Amar Bishur ben Levi, the Amar Kra, kika arba ruchais hashemayim, parasti eschem no Hashem. Because I spread you out like the four corners of the world. What is Hakadosh Baruch Hu telling us? Them, the Eden. If this is what Hakadosh Baruch Hu was telling Israel, then what? The Badrinichu, the Alma, that I spread you out to all four corners of the world. The pasuk says, I spread you out. It says I spread you out like the four corners of the world. So why like? Say be. I spread you out in the four corners of the world. This is what Hakadosh Baruch Hu meant to say. The same way, it's not possible for the world to survive without the four ruchais. The world can never exist without the Eden. Rashi explains, and I don't fully understand it, but I don't understand it at all. Rashi says, so apparently there's such a heat, it's going to be without this wind, that the world's going to be charav. I'm not a meteorologist. I didn't look into it at all, but this is something brought down. You know what else is brought down? At the end of the third parak in Gittin. It says if there was no northern wind every single day, if the malach didn't stop one of the winds, then the whole world would be far from the heat. Okay, but then you see if you have no wind, maybe it would be fine. Okay, you don't really see it from that Gemara. Interesting. Okay, but that's where you see that the world cannot stand without ruchais, and the world cannot stand with Yisrael, which is interesting because the guys spend a lot of time trying to destroy us. They don't realize it's a suicide mission. If they were matzliach, which Hakadosh Baruch Hu was maftiach that it's not going to happen, but let's say they had their win, immediately after the last Jew died, the whole world would collapse. That's what it seems like from these gemaras. Amar Rav Chanina Zokti the Gemara Vayta. Hilchach, the Meis Hakama, because of what we just said, that ruchais and tal is not necessary to mention. Even in maskirin I say you don't have to go back. If someone says mashav ruach umayr tal and b'meisachama when the lashon is mar tal, so right we're holding mar tal. So if someone says mashav ruach umayr tal, it's not a problem because mashav ruach is not a stira to the meisachama. I'm a Marid Gashem, Machzir Naisa. But if he says, or he just says Marid Gashem, you have to go back because you're saying something that's not appropriate for this man. This man of this man that we're in is not this man of Gashem. You know, it's like in the winter, if he did not say Mashav, he just said Marid Gashem, ain't Machzir Naisa. You don't have to go back. If he did not say Marid Gashem, Machzir Naisa, then you have to go back because you missed Marid Gashem, which is crucial for the winter's man. Not only that, we're going to take this whole thing a step further. He holds back the winds. If someone says in the Shemona Esrei, he holds back the winds. Hakadosh Baruch Hu holds back the winds and wipes away the tal and flies away the tal. In Machzir because you said something that's very foolish, maybe, but you're not cursing. You're not saying anything that's a curse because it's not. It's the action. Hakadosh Baruch Hu has set up the world in a way that it is not. He does not hold back tal. And he does not hold back the winds. You do not have to mention clouds and ruchais. Ruchais again is winds. But what's interesting is Rashi tells us what you would say by tal. What does he say by tal? By avim, mekasher avim. In other words, if you wanted to mention avim in Shemona, so you would say masher ruach and mekasher ba'avim. Hashem he clusters the clouds, because the cloud is just a cluster of rain. In Bala if you want to mention somehow this did not pick up, this did not catch on in our nuschais. I never heard somebody mask above him. My timer, it's not held back. It's not. Are you saying that of them is not held back? The we're saying Krishma that Hashem is going to be is going to hold back. He's going to hold back the heavens. It means from clouds and from ruches. You're telling me that maybe it's from mata. This is Gemara like schmoozing through a question. How do I know that it's taka? It's not a real kasha. Gemara is saying, how do I know that it's really avim and ruches and not mata, which is what you would think straight. If I said I'm closing up the sky from you, what does that mean? What's the first thing you think about? Is rain. There's not going to be any rain. The next pasuk, further on in the pasuk, it's the same pasuk. There will not be any rain. That's the pasuk of matter. That's the line of matter. So hamani mekayim v'atzah shemaim. So what's this atziras of shemayim that I'm talking about previously? Must be min avim and ruches. So I see that both ruches and avim are held back. You said both are. I'm showing you both are. Avim like kasha. This question from clouds to clouds is not a question. Ha b'charfi, ha b'afra. This is talking about before the rain, so about after the rain. Before the rain, Hashem doesn't hold back. But after the rain, Hashem will hold back. Just the opposite. No, I said it right. B'charfi is before. Those are never held back. The pre-rain clouds are never held back. The afri is after rain clouds are held back sometimes, and that would be a siman klal. That's a klal that the pasuk talk about in Shema. Ruchais lakasha ha beruach mitzuya ha beruach she'ena mitzuya. The normal, calm, regular winds are never held back, but the stronger winds, not to the point of hazaka of hezek, because that's not an issue. In other words, the point we're trying to say that we're holding back a ruach of bracha. So it doesn't make sense to say that there's ruach mitzuya talking about a hurricane. Talking about ruach she'ena mitzuya. Doesn't make sense to say that Ruach She'en Mitzuya that was something held back is a hurricane, destructive. We're talking about in Ruach She'en Mitzuya. There's productive and ruches of bracha. Ruach She'en Mitzuya chazi lebeidari. We still need it to on the threshing floor to do. I think it's winnowing, right? They throw up the whole spiel, and the Ruach She'en Mitzuya pushes the lighter bran away and leaves the kernels to fall down. The one says, it's very useful, but after benaf vasa, it's possible to do that with a sifter. You don't have to come onto the Ruach She'en Mitzuya, so there's no issue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu holding back. The idea over here is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not hold things back that are essential to our life, to life force on earth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already promised He's not going to destroy us. I don't know if that's part of the same Indian, but Hashem is not going to hold back something that is mamish essential for survival. Tana ha'avim v'haruches shniyais lemater. Clouds and ruches are secondary, as like they're almost as beneficial to matar. Hey chidami, what are we talking about? Amarula item Rabbi Yehuda the basa mitra. We're talking about after rain to have clouds and ruches is almost as beneficial as the rain itself. Remember the Mal Yusufi? He's saying that clouds and rain after rain, clouds and wind after rain is beneficial. I'm going to make in your land a rain of I'm going to make, I don't know if the Russian is rain. It's going to be I think it's rain. It's going to be dust and dust and dirt. Talking about a wind after the rain. The Gemara Pashup shot over here is that if it rains heavy and then it's windy, that's not beneficial because that makes a sandstorm. That makes dirt fly all over the place. If it rains light, and then it blows, and then there's the winds. That's good because that doesn't make sand all over the place, dirt. I would understand just simple that it's talking about that the zika the strength of the wind, but it's not the pasha of the Gemara. Fine. Zika the basa mitra kemitra. Wind that comes after rain is like rain again, also very beneficial. Eva the basa mitra kemitra. Clouds that are after rain are like rain in their enhancement of the for the crops, I guess. Shimsha the basa mitra kitrei mitre. Sunshine after rain is like two rains. So what are you saying? I know what he's saying. What is not beneficial? The mute gilo de leila. This is the lightning after rain, which is not beneficial. The shimsha the beni kache and sun that comes out in the bald spots, like spotty sun, I guess. Not exactly sure what that means, but some sort of like I guess not not a full sunny day, just a little bit. There's a little bit of sun, or just if it's still a cloudy day, but there's some sun, I guess that's not as beneficial. Thank you very much for joining. Have a wonderful night. Bez Hashem tomorrow night. We will start Gimel and Beis the bottom and see how far we get.